Okay. There we go. Better?
Yes, Bhante, it's fine.
Okay. Awesome. Okay. So to begin, we can put our hands together in Anjali as a sign of respect for the Buddha, the Dhamma, and the Sangha. And we'll say Namo Tassa 3 times. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the Fully Enlightened One. Homage to the Dhamma, the teachings of the Buddha that lead from death to the deathless. Homage to the Sangha, the community of the Buddha's disciples who inspire and guide. Okay, so good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this fourth night on the Satipatthana lectures. We'll continue through the Satipatthana Sutta, or the 4 foundations of mindfulness sutta. So to review what we went over last week, we finished up on mindfulness of breathing. So we went through the different stages of the mindfulness of breath, beginning with simple awareness of in and out, long and short. But last week we went through the final stages, which is experiencing the whole breath body and the tranquilization of the breath body. So with these, we have to put a little more emphasis on it. It's training ourselves to keep our awareness focused and alert and to experience the breath more fully. And also get out of its way. Let the breath do what it wants to do. For the breath to become tranquil, to let it calm down, to become more subtle, we have to stop interfering with the breath. Just let the breath and the body do what the body needs to do. As I said during our meditation practice, let the body do what it needs to do. All we do is watch and observe, get out of the breath's way, get out of the body's way, and let it go through its cycles. That way, the less that we're involved, the less we're trying to force things, the less we're trying to control things, the breath naturally will start to tranquilize. We'll let it calm down. And then we also went through the 4 postures of sitting, standing, walking, and lying. So this is mindfulness throughout our day, from sitting, doing meditation, or sitting in a chair at work. We get up and we stand, we do all kinds of walking. At the end of the day, we lie down to go to sleep. So this is seeing where we can practice mindfulness. Where can we incorporate mindfulness? Of course, when we think of mindfulness, so we think of meditation, it's looking pretty, sitting on a cushion, hands on our lap, sitting in full lotus, looking all tranquil. But the Buddha is telling us with these 4 postures, we don't need to let it go after we get off the cushion. We can apply mindfulness throughout our day, and it strengthens our mindfulness. It makes it more functional. It makes it more adaptive to all different kinds of circumstances, all different situations. And what we'll go through tonight as we continue through the sutta, it's almost like an extension on the 4 postures. It's clear comprehension is the next section of the sutta, or Sampajanya Pabang. And as you see from the text, from the sutta, he gives us even more places where we can apply our mindfulness, more places where we can apply not just mindfulness, but clear comprehension as well. So the Buddha says, again, bhikkhus, a bhikkhu is one who acts in full awareness when going forward and returning, who acts in full awareness when looking ahead and looking away, who acts in full awareness when flexing and extending his limbs, who acts in full awareness when wearing his robes and carrying his outer robe and bowl, who acts in full awareness when eating, drinking, consuming food, and tasting, who acts in full awareness when defecating and urinating, who acts in full awareness when walking, standing, sitting, falling asleep, waking up, talking, and keeping silent. So we have all these extra places where we can be mindful and and practicing mindfulness and clear comprehension. And some of them are very similar to the other four postures, like sitting and walking, standing. So we talk a lot about clear comprehension. As in the opening of the sutta, the Buddha talks about sati sampajanya, or mindfulness and clear comprehension. And to be honest, understanding clear comprehension is something that I've kind of always struggled with. It's one of those topics where you hear about it and people write about it, but it's something that's very kind of hard to digest and what it is. It's even more harder trying to explain what clear comprehension is without going into a very detailed etymological scholarly interpretation of it. But I'm not one of those kind of people who can do that very well. But when I looked up and thinking about clear comprehension for the class, we have the term sampajanya and we have the English translation clear comprehension. And a lot of it, it's very self-explanatory, clear comprehension. Or we have other words here, attention, consideration, discrimination, circumspection. And I added what sati is: memory, recognition, intentness of the mind, and mindfulness, of course. So we have sati sampajanya. And with sampajanya, or clear comprehension, it has that dynamic factor. It has functionality. It discriminates, it has circumspection, has understanding, has comprehension. It has that sense of awareness or functionality, where sati, or mindfulness, has a sense of memory, recognition, intentness of mind. So when we have sati sampajanya, or mindfulness and clear comprehension has that a function to bring things back. It brings it back. So say we're practicing mindfulness of breathing. The mindfulness is being focused on the breath. It knows what the breath is. It has the memory of the breath, or it chooses the topic in which we practice. It chooses mindfulness of breathing. It knows this is the breath. It's what I'm focusing on. But as always, the mind will wander away, or get distracted, find something else to do. Mindful breath is boring, whatever. But the clear comprehension is what draws it back. It's that function of mindfulness that comes back, wanders again, and it brings it back. So while we're practicing our mindfulness of breathing, we're using the clear comprehension, that clear understanding, that clear knowing factor of the mindfulness to come back to the breath, knowing that it's wandered off, and then we bring it back. As I mentioned in other classes, it's like the eyes at sea. Mindfulness might be the head, it might be the brain, but you need your eyes to truly see. It has that function, has that purpose. And when we have mindfulness and clear comprehension functioning together, that's where we truly progress. That's where we truly are practicing right mindfulness. We can be mindful, we might not be practicing clear comprehension. We're just kind of going through the motions. We're just functioning in our daily lives, but we need that clear comprehension in our practice for our mindfulness to truly blossom, to truly grow, They need to function together. If not, we're just going to get stagnant. We're just going to sit down, do mindfulness of breathing, or it'd be kind of laxed, it'd be kind of stale, it'd be kind of whatever. When we have that clear comprehension, we're truly being with the breath. We're truly experiencing the breath. We're truly one with the breath. And with that, we can practice right mindfulness. It helps it attain its full potential. So in the Pali tradition of Buddhism, in the commentational tradition, commentaries, I'm having trouble saying that. They give us 4 kinds of clear comprehension. So these are guideposts on which we can strengthen our practice, strengthen our clear comprehension. So we have this from the suttas, and we apply these 4 to these practices that the Buddha mentions in the sutta. So the first one being purpose. It's keeping us on track. And I put, why are we doing what we're doing? Are our motives pure? And does it benefit our practice? So before we do anything, we have to question ourselves, ask ourselves, is this what a yogi practicing Satipatthana should be doing? Is it right? Is it going along with our goal? So even just sitting on your cushion, looking good, are we really practicing it? Are we truly knowing why we're doing what we're doing? In the beginning of the sutta, the Buddha gives us our purpose. It's for the purification of the mind, the overcoming of sorrow, limitation, grief, and despair, practicing the true way, attaining nibbana. So those are our purpose for practicing Satipatthana, for practicing the 4 foundations of mindfulness. But not everyone goes into meditation with those purposes, with that goal. Nothing really wrong with it. Say you go to meditation so you can learn to relax and calm down. That's all well and good. But if you want to get the most of your Satipatthana practice, when you dedicate yourself to Satipatthana, you need to have that purpose in mind for the purification of the mind, and so on and so forth. That is our purpose. That is why we practice Satipatthana. So we need to be aware within ourselves of why we're doing this practice. And that's a very good thing, to have that self-awareness, to have that clear comprehension of why you're practicing, because that will strengthen your resolve when you go to practice. If you kind of forget that, if you kind of let it go, you don't keep that in your focus, when you hit rough patches, when you kind of get a little uneasy or unsure of yourself, you're not going to want to continue. You'll just get laxed and give up on your practice. But by keeping your purpose and goal, by keeping your awareness of the goal of why we practice, that will strengthen your resolve, and you continue on with the practice no matter what happens. And our motives have to be good. Some people like to practice just meditation because they like to look deep. They like to look special, or they like to look like they like to have a self-image of themselves. That's not a good motive. That's not a pure motive for practicing meditation, for practicing Satipatthana. We try to let go of our egos. We try to let go of all that self-image of ourselves, of trying to be somebody. So we have to be aware of that ego stinging. Even if you go into meditation with the pure intention, you have some nice, beautiful experiences sitting in meditation, it can change you. It can affect you, and not always in a good way. It can build that ego of like, I'm a real meditator. particularly when you go to retreats and you see people maybe struggling with their practice. You should have compassion for them. You shouldn't be kind of judging them of like, oh yeah, this person's not serious, blah, blah, blah. We'll get more into that a little bit later with the other comprehensions. But to be like, not to let yourself get over zealous or egotistical. And also in our day-to-day lives, do the things that we do the things that we give our time to, will they help us? Does it benefit our practice? Does it strengthen our practice? Or does it weaken our practice? So we always need to be aware that our practice is something that's very sensitive and needs to be nurtured and needs to be taken care of. So we shouldn't engage in activities that might not be so good for our practice. And that goes into our next clear comprehension. Suitability, being skillful. Engaging in activities that help our practice, not things that might hinder our practice. It's not good to have a very large meal before going to sit for meditation because you might feel a little sluggish. Even if you have dinner before you go do meditation, let it be walking meditation. You can go out for a nice walk on the streets to help digest the food. You feel more energetic. You won't feel so sluggish. It's not good to watch a lot of TV before you go practice meditation because it just puts a lot of things in the mind. It makes it very hard to calm down, particularly violent things or sensual things. Those things are not good when you want to practice meditation for a long period of time, when you want to have a very good meditation. So engaging in activities, associating with people that enrich your practice, that don't hinder your practice. You want to talk with people that have the same interest as you, which is not always easy because you might live in places where there might not be a very strong sangha or group of meditators where you can talk about these things. But to take your time when you have time to go to retreats or to seek out places where you could, other people that you can talk to, practice meditation with them, talk to them about meditation, share your experience with other people. Those things that are very suitable for your practice. But to have toxic relationships that only worsen your practice, the people that want to get you in trouble, do things that are unwholesome, unskillful, those are kinds of relationships that we need to stay away from, that are not suitable for somebody who is practicing Satipatthana. Also, just going through the motions. Are you just sitting on your cushion and that's it? You're just sitting. You're not really using the breath. Sure, you're like, okay, the breath's going on. I know that. But are you really doing the practice? Or are you just going through the motions? You look like a meditator on the outside, but the mind is not meditating. You might read a lot. You might talk a lot about meditation. But are you really practicing it? You might have started off with very good intentions. You might know the purpose, but things happen. We hit some speed bumps. We might have some incidents in our lives that kind of pull us away from our practice, and we just don't have that energy to kind of really put the effort into our practice. It happens. But that's where the next one comes, is making the course corrections. Say you've been practicing mindfulness of breathing, but it doesn't really seem like you're getting much from it. Then it's okay to let your mindfulness of breathing go. There's plenty of other subjects of meditation you can practice. It's good to practice mindfulness of breathing, but it's not everybody's particular cup of tea. Maybe not at that time. Maybe at another time, it might be better for you. So you can practice loving kindness meditation. It's much more interesting. It's much more, you get to talk to yourself, wish yourself good things instead of just watching the breath come in and come out. or practice mindfulness of breathing and then practice mindfulness of breath, or mindfulness, loving kindness meditation, and then practice mindfulness of the breath. It's adjusting our practice so that we get benefits from it. It's not just going along with whatever teacher says or anything like that. I wouldn't want that for you. I don't want you to just do what I tell you to do. I want you to gain something from it, but I want you to get the results. I want you to have a practice of your own. So to make adjustments so that you can gain results from it, that's much more important. So I want you to be engaged with it, to actually really develop your own practice, not just to play the role of meditator. I want you to be meditators. So, and to do that, you need to be able to correct yourselves. What happens when something happens in your practice? A memory comes up or an emotion comes up. Do you take the proper steps to overcome that? So it's not just sitting, watching the breath, but really engaging with your practice. So that's suitability. So purpose, suitability. And the third one is domain, or our places of practice. So our domain is this. It's this mind and body. When we practice Satipatthana, we're using this, our minds and our bodies, to be able to gain understanding, to be able to gain wisdom. So this is where we should be focusing our mind. We should keep our mind inwards, looking at our mind, looking at this body, learning to understand this body, learning to understand this mind, using the breath, or any of the other subjects of meditation, practicing mindfulness, loving kindness practice, mindfulness of breathing, awareness of death, whatever. Those are our domains. Those are the places where we should be focusing, not focusing so much on the external, getting overly involved with all the trials and tribulations that come along with life. As our mind is right now, as our mind's so defiled, there's not much we can do. We can help out in small ways, but truly to be able to deal with all those things, we need to work on ourselves as well. We need to work on purifying this mind. So this is our domain. This is where we work. This is where we focus. Unfortunately, life happens and we tend to neglect our domain. We focus too much on the external. It's also being drawn from the senses to focus on the outside. Focusing too much on the beautiful, focusing too much on the tantalizing things, pretty colors, pretty people, men, women, whatever, fashions, makeups, colognes, movies, football games, basketball games, all those kinds of things, wrestling, whatever. Focusing too much on the external, listening to music too much, listening to overly aggressive music too much. That's getting out of our domain. We're playing with fire. We're not spending time focusing on the internal. We're not focusing too much on our own domain. We're too involved with the external domains, other people's domains. And when we get overly involved with other people's domains or the domains of the outer world, it has the effects on us. So when we go to sit, when we go to practice, we bring all that stuff in with us. It has an effect on us. Say you're a good meditator, you were practicing daily, probably won't happen, but go with me. And you go and you've spent, maybe you didn't practice for a week. You went on vacation, you ate a lot of great food. Hopefully you didn't drink alcohol, but if you drank alcohol, that's up to you. That's your problem. Drank a lot of alcohol, went dancing, music, all those great things that come along with vacations, had barbecues with families. But you didn't practice any kind of mindfulness. You didn't practice any kind of clear comprehension. you just kind of did what you do when you go on vacation. So you get back from vacation and you go to sit. But your mind constantly is thinking about, oh wow, that was really fun. That was really funny. The food was really great. The music was really great. What a lovely way to spend my time. Now that I'm sitting, it's sitting, watching the breath. That's not sitting in the sun on a beach, drinking margaritas or whatever. The meditation loses its appeal. That's because our mind was so involved with the outer domain. It's gone, it's enjoyed things that aren't really good for our practice. So that's what happens when we neglect our own domain, the inner domain, our mind and our body. So we need to be aware of this when we go throughout our days. So the last of them, the fourth one, is non-delusion. It's seeing clearly. And this is what happened. This is what happens when things come up in our practice. Sitting, practicing mindfulness of breathing, an image appears in our minds. What do? Do we just let it vex us, let it bother us? Do we just kind of get angry about it? So this mind and body becomes this battleground. And it is going to be a battleground no matter what, particularly when we first begin. But as we sit and practice mindfulness of breathing, we see how all the different things are going on. Things are constantly rising and falling away. So it lessens that impact. But if we are delusional, if we're ignorant, we tend to get very upset, get very frustrated with things. Because this body should be doing what we want it to do. Our mind should be doing what we want it to do. But they're of their own nature. They do what they want to do. We have to work with them though. It's our domain. We have nothing else to work with. Just this mind and this body. This is where understanding grows, it develops. But when we overly personalize it, when we make it, this is my body, this is my mind, we tend to get frustrated, we tend to get aggravated, we tend to get riled up. But if we learn, when we come to realize that, okay, that happened, but then this happened, and then this happened, you just see that this thing is constantly changing. The mind's constantly changing. The body's constantly changing. The breath comes in, it goes out. What's to get so frustrated about? But when we personalize our body, when we personalize our mind, think that we are the masters, we are the kings, we are the queens, we are whatever. It just adds fuel to the fire. It makes things much more complicated. It makes things so much more unpleasant. So we have to be aware. Are we taking things a little too personal? Are we taking things a little too far? Are we taking things a little too out of control? Are we just getting a little too involved? Not in a wholesome way, an unwholesome kind of involved. So particularly when we come up with emotions, memories arise. Why am I suffering? Why is this happening to me? Why does it seem like I'm not getting anywhere? Why this? Why that? Kind of we have a tendency to take things very personally. We take things, we engage them in not in wholesome ways. We don't try to work with it. We just like to comment about it. We like to get emotional about it. And yeah, it's hard, it's difficult, but there is other ways. And that begins by simply watching the breath and seeing all the stuff swimming around. It's like, why get so upset about it? Why get so emotional about this? And these things come and they go. But we're so conditioned to think that we have to do something about it, to take it so, to make it, there must be something wrong with us if we don't get emotional about these things. But sure, okay, yes. There's sadness happens, things happen, we get upset about it. But that's just that. Why not we can adjust that, to change it. Why we want to hold on to something that might harm us, to make us feel so upset, to make us feel suffering so much. If there's something that we can do about it, then why shouldn't we do those things? Why can we just say, like, okay, these are just these thoughts. They are what they are. I got other thoughts I can think that are much more beneficial to us, that helps me relax, that helps me calm down, that helps me grow as a person. So maybe we need to let those things that seem to sting us, learn from them, let them go, and just continue on with our lives. So this is how we develop non-delusion, by seeing how things arise, they pass away, whether it be the mind, whether it be the body, whether it be the mind and body of other people. Everything is in a constant state of flux. Everything's in a constant state of movement. Everything's in a constant state of change. It's when we cling and we attach and we get emotional, when we get upset so much and we get so this or that, that's when things start getting complicated. That's when things start getting more difficult. Because everything wants to move, everything wants to change, everything wants to evolve. But we say, no, this is I, this is me, this is myself. I need to hold on to these things. I need to cling to these phenomena. I need to do this, I do this. And that's when we start getting anxious, we get frustrated, we get upset, we get blah, blah, blah. But all we're doing is just letting things go about their business. We're letting things go to their nature. When we stop, watch, learn, and adjust when things need to be adjusted, for those things to go on about their business. And that's when we gain non-delusion. So these are the 4 sampajanyas of the 4 kinds of clear comprehension. So let's go back to the text. So how do we practice full awareness or clear comprehension, clear knowledge, discrimination, whatever, with these different activities? So going forward and returning. So going forward and returning, simple as that. Going about our business, we're walking, doing work, and we're not letting the mind just wander wherever it wants. We're staying with this. We're staying with the forward. We're staying with the returning. So we're going to the bank to make a deposit. We're making sure that everything is in order. We're filling out the deposit slips with full awareness, being aware of the movements of the hand while it's writing, not letting the mind think too much further in the future, not letting it just think about what you just watched on TV. It's just staying with it. The mind and the body are doing what it needs to do. Filling out the deposit slip because you're going to the bank. You put it in your bag, you put it in your wallet, getting into your car, opening the door, sitting in the car, driving, or walking, whatever. Let's say walking. You're walking, you're feeling the body moving, being aware of the footsteps, right, left, seeing the bank, going into the bank, giving the cashier or the bank teller the deposit slip, speaking to them, and you're staying with it. You're experiencing all these different things. You're not letting the mind just go wherever it wants. You are a person walking to the bank. No backstory, no future story, just that now, being in the present, being that person walking to the bank and experiencing all the different little details that go into being a person that goes to the bank. Be the person you can say to yourself, going to the bank. That's it. No story, no strenuous thoughts. And when the thoughts come arise, you're like, okay, my thought is wandering. It's going to the store, or it sees something in a shop window. And you're like, oh, look at that. I want to get that. That seems like it's a really great thing. No, just be aware that your thought is focusing on something else. It's wandering. It's being pulled away to the cake in the window and think about how good that cake is going to be. Be like, no, going to the bank. So it's not being pulled. It's seeing its purpose. The purpose is going to the bank. It's knowing that going to a bank is a good thing. It's suitable because you have business to take care of. It's staying within the domain of this mind and this body, using it for purposes to live your life. And it's seeing all the different movements, all the different feelings, all the different textures, all the different movements of the body. Mind is working properly, pushing the body to go to the bank, feeling the rising and falling of the footsteps. When one foot goes up, goes down, another one does it. There's movement, there's action, there's heart rates, there's whatever, sweat. Everything is in a state of change. Everything is in flux. However, feeling arises, it passes away. Sights rise, pass away. There's ever a change. So that's how we can practice clear comprehension when going forward and then go back doing the same thing. So it's looking ahead, it's looking away, seeing things in the distance. So you're aware of seeing. You can quietly say to yourself, seeing. It's seeing this, it's seeing that. And you're aware that you're seeing things in the distance. Like looking down the street when there's a car and making sure there's no cars coming. You're being aware of, okay, I see the road, I see the cars, I see everything. You're being with this experience. Your mind is not going all over this. Flexing and extending his limbs. So say you have to open a doorway, you have to open a door. You see a doorknob, you see a door latch. And you're aware, okay, that is a doorknob. I have to turn it to open the door. So as you're doing it, you're feeling the arm extending, feeling the hand touching the doorknob. It's hard. It can be cold, hot. You can maybe feel if it has like decorations on, you can feel the texture of the different decorations. Your mind is not wandering away. It's staying with the movements of the arm. It's dealing with the touch sensations. It's feeling cold. It's feeling hot. Feeling the different texture of the doorknob's decorations. It's being present. It's being aware. It's knowing what's happening at that time. It's not just thinking of the future. It's not thinking of the past, whatever. It's being with it. It's feeling it, knowing it. I'm not going to go over the ropes or anything like that. Eating, drinking, consuming food, and tasting. So this is a great practice. It's very popular amongst the monks. When you're eating, you're being aware of all the different actions that go into eating. You can sit and look at the food for some time, being aware of all its colors, being aware of all the different textures. This one is wet, this is dry, this is yellow, this is red, this is green. It's food. We need to eat food to survive. It looks really great now, but once it's consumed, it's not going to be something that's so pleasant. So why make such a big deal about it? It's food. We need to eat food. We can't survive without food. So there's awareness of this body is dependent on other things, the breath and food, material food. We can't survive on nothing. This body that we think that is us, that's me, that's myself. We can't live without other things. So we gain a little bit of insight into the nature of the body. The body needs food to survive, needs to digest the food. The food needs to be healthy, can't be poisonous. If we eat something that's poisonous or something that is not so healthy, it can affect the body. It can alter its health. So we can reflect on all these things while we are sitting, looking at the food. And we pick up our instruments, our forks, our spoons, our chopsticks, whatever, feel them in our hand, feel the extension of going to pick up the food, take a little bit, bringing it up to our mouths, put it in our mouth, the food, and taste it. Feel the food in the mouth. Is it soft? Is it hard? Is it sweet? Is it spicy? Is it salty? So we can experience it. Chew it, chew it, chew it. Swallow it. And then what happens when we swallow it? You can feel it maybe go down the throat a little bit. But that taste, that sweetness, that spiciness, that saltiness, once it's out of the mouth, the particles that were on the tongue gradually fades away because it's no longer there, and all of its traces have lessened. It's no longer there. It's faded away. So something that was very apparent at first, the food in the mouth, the textures, the sweetness, spiciness, saltiness, whatever, once it's left the mouth, it fades over time. Like taking medicine, like cough syrup, very bitter and gross when you first take it. But then you swallow that medicine, gradually, and wash it down with some water to get the taste out of your mouth. It fades away. So something that was so unpleasant, made such a big deal about taking it, like a gross cough syrup, I don't like it. But you take it anyways because you need to do it. It fades over time. It's left the body, it's left the tongue, it's left the mouth. And it wasn't, like, well, it's not that big of a deal. So then we can pick up some more food, taste it, do the same process of chewing, tasting, being aware that we're tasting saltiness, sweetness, spiciness, and consuming. We're not letting the mind run around. We're not like, ooh, this is wonderful, great, great, great. If it is, that's okay too. Like, just be aware, oh, this is sweet. I like sweet things. They're nice. But then we can experience that sweetness that we like so much fade away. It's like, what's the big deal about sweetness? What's the big deal about this food? It fades away. It's limited. It's not worth all that wanting, because it's great when it's there. It is delicious when we're eating it, but it becomes something other when it goes through the body. And it's such a limited experience. And walking, standing, sitting, falling asleep, waking up, talking, and keeping silent. So we went over walking, standing, and sitting, and falling asleep. We're lying down last week. So we do a lot of these things throughout our day. We have to live, we have to work, we have to run errands, do chores, clean, whatever. There's always opportunities in where we can place our mindfulness and clear comprehension. Are they things that, are we walking to the places that are beneficial to us? Are they helpful to us? Or are we walking to a bar? Are we doing actions that are beneficial to our practice? Are we staying truly focused on those things? Are we experiencing them? Or is our mind all over the place? So these are all different places where we can apply our mindfulness and clear comprehension. So waking up, when we wake up in the morning, we can feel the body laying on the bed. We don't have to get up right away. We can just sit there, follow the breath for a little while, be aware when we open up the eyes. We can say a few words, reflect on some words of loving kindness, and then we experience the body moving out of the bed. Pull the covers back, slide the legs off the side of the bed, feel the feet against the floor, pushing ourselves up off the bed, and then walking to the restroom to splash ourselves, go do our business, and splashing our face with some water. So that's how we can use our mindfulness and clear comprehension and waking up, and talking and keeping silent, which is a very important one because we have a tendency to talk too much. We have a tendency to say things that aren't really any benefits to anybody. We, as social creatures, like to talk. We like to communicate with other people. But are they following under the criterion of clear comprehension? What's the purpose of talking? Is it suitable? Is it dealing with the Dhamma? Is it helping us grow in the Dhamma? Or is it just us gossiping, backstabbing, being malicious? Is it in the domain, our domain? And does it deal with non-delusion? So if it's not within proper criteria, it's not helping us in any way, then we can stay silent. We can sit. We can practice sitting, just being with the body, staying with whatever we're doing at that time being. Could be just sitting in a chair, drinking something, holding something in our hand, like a drink, feeling the cup in our hand. Is it hot? Is it cold? Bringing it up to our mouth, taking a sip, tasting, swallowing, seeing how the taste changes over time, fades away, just sitting there quietly, being reflective, thinking thoughts of Dhamma, all those wonderful things. So these are some ways that we can incorporate clear comprehension into our daily lives so that our mindfulness just becomes stronger. We are being engaged with our practice. So what we've gone through so far in the Satipatthana Sutta really is about strengthening our mind, strengthening our mindfulness and clear comprehension. Focusing on the breath helps keeping the mind calm, relax and focus. Working with the body, sitting, standing, walking, lying down, and all these others in this list that is in the section Sampajanya, all about incorporating, strengthening our mindfulness and clear comprehension. Because when we go next week is when we're really going to need them. So all these little things is about strengthening our mind, making it prepared for the real work. So, but we'll get into that next week. So that's the end of my talk for this evening. So now it's time for some questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to raise your hand, write your comments in the box, and let's continue on. I think there's some messages in the box already. Mm-hmm. So the first question is, okay, so the first question is, I appreciate the importance of mindfulness of postures and activities for daily life practice, but sometimes also wonder whether I should be focusing on my breath, posture, or activity in any given moment during daily life. For some, during daily life, would you suggest building a minimum level of concentration by focusing on breath during daily life for some weeks, months, until it's second nature, and then move on to awareness of postures and activities, or generally let the breath go during daily life. Just focus on the postures that you during daily life, generally let the breath go during daily life, and just focus on postures, activities during daily life. More generally, what role do you see for breath awareness in daily life when there is so much to be mindful of? I would say don't worry so much about breath in your daily life. When you're going about doing work, or particularly things like driving, don't worry about the breath so much. Just focus on movements, postures, all those things that are dynamic, walking, working, whatever. But like I mentioned before, you can incorporate mindfulness of breathing in your daily life, particularly when you're very anxious or very upset about something. Then the mindfulness of breath is something that's very soothing, it's very calming, it's about focusing and letting go. So, and then incorporate those minute meditations every hour, on the hour, throughout the day. And then go home and do just mindfulness of breathing, or loving kindness meditation. But in our busy lives, when we're really running around doing a lot of stuff, it's hard to just stay focused on the breath. And it has that soothing effect on the mind, where you need to be much more engaged and you need to be more active. So yeah, by being aware of movements, being aware of walking, being aware of standing, all those kinds of things, then. But yeah, you don't need to, you don't really need to set a timer. You don't really need to set, weeks, months. Just do the practice and find out what works for you. So, so as I, do a practice in the morning, do practice in the evening, and throughout your day, stay with the body as much as you can. Try to incorporate a minute of mindfulness of breathing throughout your day and all that good stuff. So is there any other questions? Okay, we got another question in the box. How do you suggest one maintain right mindfulness during periods of severe emotional pain? It's a tough one, definitely. Like I mentioned, that we're just so, emotional pain is emotional pain. It's something that's very personal. I just think that's why we need to practice more often. That's why we need to have a good practice. So when things do happen or things do come up, we have that constant awareness of, okay, what I'm feeling right now is emotional pain. It's very unpleasant. But however dark it is now, it will pass. Just as the breath passes, just as thoughts pass, just as physical pain can pass. Everything, you need to be constantly aware of that constant flux, that constant impermanence. Why should our emotional pain be any different? And being aware of, okay, this is emotional pain. It's not something that I can really use that helps me. But what can I do about this? What's causing this emotional pain? How am I, being aware that emotional pain has risen? What is that old saying? Knowing that there is an enemy is the first step to avoiding that, averting that enemy or whatever. So we do the same thing with our emotional pain. Okay, before we get overly involved with it, and you say like, okay, I see you, emotional pain. I see you, whatever. I know who you are. I know your nature. If I get overly involved with you, if I take you and hold you and don't let you go, you're just going to cause me more pain. But what can I do with you? How can I work with you? how can I, you're going to pass. So let's work together so you can pass even quicker. So it's little things like that that can help with that emotional pain. And also, if it's something that's very deep, that's something that's very traumatic, talk with somebody. Talk with family, talk with your friends, talk to a therapist. Don't just be reliant on this idiot who's just running his mouth, or some guru who wrote a book or something like that. Really you have to be very intelligent and you have to take care of yourself. So if it's something that's very traumatic, it's something that's really caused you a lot of trouble, then definitely talk to somebody that you have confidence in and somebody that knows you very well. And we're lucky we live in a time where a lot of professionals are incorporating mindfulness teachings into their sessions. So don't give up, your practice altogether, but definitely when you need to incorporate a professional and mindfulness practice working together can really do a lot of great work, help us get over those blockages. Okay, so is there any last questions before I finish up? Oh. Majid, do you have a question?
No, Bhante, thank you.
Okay, very good. Wow. Well, thank you everybody for not bombarding me with questions today. I'm very, very grateful. Really hope that I got what I was trying to say across, and everyone's really benefited from it. And the recordings will go online, hopefully tomorrow. Depends on my crew. Yeah, so I guess that's it for this evening. So
Thank you, Bhante Mangala.
No, thank you, Geeta.
Thank you, Daddy.
No, thank you, Majid. So yeah, we've spent this time practicing and discussing the Dharma. We've accumulated lots of wonderful merits. If there's any beings that are present who've observed us practicing and discussing Dharma, whether it be departed relatives, strangers, other various beings that we cannot see with our physical eyes, may they rejoice in our efforts. May they benefit from our efforts, so that they can continue on this journey through samsara and attain the sweet bliss, which is Nibbana. May we all attain the sweet bliss, which is Nibbana. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you so much, Bhante.
Sadhu.
Thank you, everybody. So yeah, I'll see you all next week, and
Thank you, Bhante.
continue on
Take
with your
care.
practice.
Thank you,
Continue on with
Bhante.
your studies.
Thank you,
Please take
Bhante.
care of yourself.
Thank you, Bhante.
And I'll see you all next week.
Be
Thank
safe.
you,
Take care.
Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Bye, Bhante.
You're welcome. Welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye.